Welcome to the weird and wonderful world of Out of the Blue. I'm your host, Vernon West, and as always, I'm joined by my son and co-host, Vernon West III, the creative force behind our logo, our theme song, and so much of the heart of the soul in this show. Today is a very special episode. We are honored to welcome back our friend, the extraordinary musician and storyteller, Steve Thoma, for a heartfelt tribute to the late, great Dave Mason, a true rock and roll legend. Dave Mason was one of those rare artists whose music didn't just pass through the world, it became part of the atmosphere. Born in Worcester, England, he helped form the legendary band Traffic with Steve Winwood, Jim Capaldi, and Chris Wood, and went on to write songs that became part of the soundtrack of generations, including the immortal Feelin' All Right and the beloved classic We Just Disagree. His fingerprints are on some of the greatest music ever made, from Traffic to his solo career, from the Rolling Stones to George Harrison, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Fleetwood Mac, and beyond. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Traffic in 2004, and his life's work remains woven into the fabric of rock history. But today, we're not just here to read the resume of a legend. We're here for something more personal. Because Steve Thoma knew Dave Mason not only as an icon, but as a man, a musician, a band leader, a collaborator, and a human being. Steve will regale us with fond, fascinating, funny, and moving memories from his time working with Dave. The kind of stories you don't find in a biography, the kind that live in green rooms, on tour buses, backstage hallways, rehearsals, hotel lobbies, and the sacred spaces between musicians listening to each other. Dave Mason left us on April 19, 2026, at the age of 79, after a lifetime of giving the world songs that still breathe. And today, with Steve's help, we get to celebrate not only the music Dave made, but the spirit he carried. So open your hearts, turn up your inner speakers, and join us as we remember a man whose music helped so many of us feel all right. Welcome, Steve, back to Out of the Blue, the podcast.
Thank you, Vernon. What a beautiful tribute to Dave you just played. You mentioned all these different experiences, backstage and this and down on the bus and the men's rooms. There were a few ladies' rooms in there too, but
Okay.
we're probably not going to talk about that today.
I'm
So,
so glad you mentioned that.
yeah, crazy stuff happens in rock bands. So I want to talk about Dave's lovability because one of my most vivid memories was being on tour with Dave, and we were playing like theaters, like 12, like 1,000 to 1,200 seat theaters, and we were playing big clubs, like these big dance clubs that were in these old, like Midwest and East Coast. They were probably dance halls originally, where they'd have big bands and then they turn them into concert rooms, So there was, maybe you could get 600 or 800 people in there all standing on the dance floor, that kind of thing. But I had this experience with Dave many times because we'd finish the gig, we'd go to the dressing room, we'd dry off, and then we'd head to the bus. And there was inevitably always people that were going to intercept us on our way to the bus. And I got to tell you, every person that we encountered, and I was always, walking with Dave, and every one of them we encountered, it was always a couple, and the couple were our age or older. And they always had a memory to say, like, this is what I heard 1,000 times. Dave, this little lady and I were at your show at Madison Square Garden in 1971, and I proposed to her that night, and we're still together, and it's, and they would mention one of the songs that they loved of his, that they were so glad he did it that night. And here's Dave's reaction. I said, Dave, these people are pouring they're revealing their soul to you. They're so enamored and they're so buoyed by the spirit of your music and the message of your music. And you go into freeze mode when these people lay this beautiful stuff on you. I go, what's up with that? He goes, I don't know how to respond. I said, how about, thank you. I'm really glad you dug it. Do you feel that way about when you hear that? And he goes, well, yeah, but I go, well, let him have it, baby.
Yeah, really. Did you ever? With 1972, he was in Traffic at that time, wasn't he?
No, he had left Traffic by then. He was well on his solo career by then.
Okay. I saw
Yeah.
Traffic in 72. Um,
Well, he may have still be. I don't think he was still in it by then. But anyway, the date isn't. It's inconsequential. The point is, these people were bringing up memories. This was in the late '90s or mid and late '90s when I toured with him. When I was in it, we were in Fleetwood Mac together in '94, '95, and '96. And not long after I joined Fleetwood Mac, which was May of '94, Dave and I just hit it off, and he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna start doing tour dates in between Fleetwood Mac tours." I'm like, "Okay," and he goes, "Will you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So in between Fleetwood Mac tours, I'm going on the road with Dave. So this is stuff from the '90s. People were bringing up memories from 25 and 30 years ago to coming up to Dave and sharing that stuff with him. So and there was always the same thing. Everybody would thank him for the show, that they saw 25 years ago and tell them about their memory of that and how they're really grateful he did a particular song again, or they would mention several songs. Dave was very conscientious about playing the songs that the audience wanted to hear. A lot of artists, when they get that far down the road, they get bored with those songs. They don't appreciate the impact and the need of their audience to hear that stuff again. So anyway, so that's Dave's lovability. Now, this is the flip side of Dave. We are all beautifully flawed. We're all imperfect. And just Dave had a knack for just being a lone wolf. And it's one of the reasons why he left Traffic. There was also some friction between he and Steve Winwood, another immensely talented guy. And they had very different ideas of what they wanted Traffic to be. And Dave was but Dave was naturally a very poppy songwriter. I mean, his songs had depth and meaning, but he was able to do it and still be like poppy. So, which I think is a great gift. I mean, everybody's looking to write that song that just sticks in your craw and has you singing along when you're alone in your car. You just love the song and you're singing it, because it's a great
Feeling All
melody.
Right is by far one of my favorite songs of all time.
Never tired of playing that.
What a beautiful song that is. It's just so much fun. It's very simple
Oh yeah,
and down.
all two chords. Yeah.
Yep, all two chords.
So we're on the road. So at one point during the heyday of our Fleetwood Mac run together, Dave goes, "Listen, I'm gonna call." Capaldi had just done a tour with Steve Winwood. They did like Traffic. They named it was a Traffic actual tour. It wasn't a Steve Winwood tour. And so it certainly revitalized interest in Traffic. And Dave was certainly part of their successful run as a band, even though he left after a couple of albums. So he goes, "I think Capaldi and I are going to do a tour. Would you do the tour with us? It's going to be like Traffic Light." And I go, "Well," no, he goes, "We're going to do it like a Traffic tour." And I go, "Well, without Steve Winwood, I love you and Jim, but it's going to be Traffic Light in my book." And he goes, "Oh, come on, you play circles around him." I'm like, "Boy, are you buttering me up?"
Is that pun intended?
Yeah, right.
Traffic light.
Anyway, we
wind up Traffic Light. Oh God!
He goes, "Well, we're going to do an unplugged version." I'm like, "Really? Okay." But Capaldi's a drummer, and he goes, "Well, he plays a little guitar too." I'm like, "Okay." So anyway, Dave was living up in Ojai at the time. He had this house, and he was renting it temporarily, and this house belonged to a drug dealer, some big time drug dealer that got like thrown in federal prison. And they were going to be tearing all the houses down in this area because it's a flood control plain that feeds into this reservoir up there called Lake Casitas. So I knew the area because of my boating history. And I go, "Oh, you're living on Casitas?" He goes, "Well, not really on it, but we have a view of the lake from the house." So anyway, I go to his house and he goes, "Just, plan on spending, 3 or 4 days here." He goes, "I got a beautiful guest room and one for you, one for Capaldi. And we'll just rehearse, and we'll probably only need to rehearse 3 or 4 days, and then we'll be ready to go on the road." I'm like, okay. So anyway, Dave's house is on this hill. The bottom floor is like a basement. It's built into the side of this hill. The bottom floor is on basement ground level, and it's got a beautiful saltillo tile floor, and it's big wood beams and a high ceiling, and it's perfect. It's a great sounding room. And there's a drum set in there. So we do like 2 or 3 songs. He's playing acoustic guitar and singing it, and we do a little arrangement, and I put some strings and stuff on it, and they're very happy with that. Then Jim goes and sits down at the drums, and the bass player now has shown up, and we start doing this jam, and of course, I start playing,
Oh yeah, baby. Feeling all right.
Feeling all right. Not much better than I
Not
just played
feeling
it,
too
but-
good myself.
Right. So we start playing that. We start jamming on it, and we play it. You play it for like 10 minutes. Everybody solos, and
Yeah.
anyway,
It's
what
an
happened is,
extending song. You extend that.
right. I said, listen, guys, fuck that acoustic shit. I go, let's do a little acoustic set in the middle of a set. This is a rock band.
Right.
I mean, listen to Capaldi. Are you kidding me? We got to play. We got this. We need this guy to play drums. So it went from unplugged, because that was like the very, very cool at the time, the new unplugged thing they were doing on MTV. So I go, we can do a little unplugged set in the middle of the show, which is what we wound up doing. And it was a rockin' band. It was just a 4-piece band. Great bass player named Alex Drizos. Really nice guy, super pro, friendly, just a guy if you want to be on the bus with, And Jim was great. Jim had a great sense of humor, and he embraced what we were doing right away, and was a great collaborator. And we talked a lot about British comedians, like Monty Python, of course, and Faulty Towers, and
Oh my God, I love Faulty Towers.
all this great stuff. So we
My
were always
favorites.
having a great time. But anyway, so we rehearsed them, and now we're a little 4-piece rock band, and it was totally fun because everybody, had to like fill up that room. There's only
Right,
4
4
of us,
pieces, quite perfect, actually.
So that's like a different technique. So, and everybody caught on like right away, and it sounded awesome. And I had my hands full because I'm playing string parts, I'm playing flute parts, I'm playing piano parts, I'm playing B3 parts, and it's just 4 of us. So anyway, we get into the tour, and we're on our way to New York City to do 2 shows back to back, and I think it was either at the Beacon Theater or the Ritz, and maybe it was the Beacon Theater. And Capaldi and I were arguing about the set list. Like we had this conflict over what song should be, like it was like 3 or 4 or 5 songs into the set. I go, no, we should build it a little bit. Don't do that tune right. I don't remember what the argument was about, but it was about the set list. I go, well, listen, let's record those 2 nights at the Beacon that we're about to do, and we'll do your set list one night, and we'll do my set list the other night. He goes, okay, great. So our road manager was actually Jim Capaldi's personal manager, great guy named John Taylor. So he was on the road with us. He was the road manager, and he was also the house mixer.
Okay.
So, and a very good mixer, very competent, and
But
great
such
ears.
that's such a familiar format. I think I did that for at least 10 years. The road manager was the house mixer, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very common
it's
format.
it's what we call a very lean crew.
Exactly. Very
But
contained.
it was just fine, and everybody knew everybody, and everybody listened to everybody. And so John he was very excited because he had just bought a new Sony DAT man,
Oh yeah.
which was like a Walkman, but it was a DAT recorder.
Digital
It was
audio,
digital.
very, very clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
High
So
quality.
he decides what he does is he plugs 2 microphones, audience microphones into the board, and he takes and does a sub mix off the board into the DAT recorder, just off of sound check. We did a sound check. He did a mix, wearing headphones, and we recorded. And that recording became a live album that got released, and it's called the 40,000 Headmen Tour.
And that was
And
whose set list? Was that your set list or his?
I don't even remember who won the argument,
Okay.
because all of a sudden we got this live record. We're like, man, this sounds really good. And Jim's manager got a record deal, and originally it was only released in Europe, and then somebody made a deal to release it in England, and then released it worldwide. And I think I got paid $1,500 for that record, which is ridiculous.
It still got out, It's
So-
it's in someone's collection somewhere, It's a beautiful.
Oh, it's definitely out there. So anyway, but it's a great album, and it's a great snapshot of exactly where Dave was, exactly where Jim was. Like I said, we did a little unplugged thing in the middle of it. It was awesome. And the shows that we did both nights at the Beacon were just great. And the only thing that's not actually live is that whatever the order of the songs is on that record, that's the only thing that was altered from what we played. There's nothing remixed. There's no fixes. There's no punch-ins. There's no replacements. It is 100% live to that 2-track DAT machine.
Wow.
That's the master.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it's an incredible documentation of 4 really solid musicians playing really, really, really well. So as a matter of fact, if you were going to ask me what's the one recording that you would want people to hear, that's the one.
And what it was called, the 40,000 Headmen
Tour.
album? Tour.
Yeah,
Okay.
40,000 Headmen. So the other thing I want to talk about is Dave was one of the best conversationalists I've ever been around. He was very well read. You know, he was raised in England, Worcester, which is my family's from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, I thought of that when I was reading his bio.
Right. So, but he was also very Americanized. Like for several years, he lived in Chicago, which is like, to me, Chicago is the greatest city in the United States.
It is
If
very
it weren't for the weather,
American. Yep.
I'd live there. So Dave lived in Chicago, so he's kind of got that kind of Chicago, just open-hearted. You know, he was a very dichotomous kind of person. He had a lot of different facets to him that were very interesting. He also, for a while, lived in Florida, and he also lived in the Caribbean. So he partied, Mon, wherever he went. Like, we knew when we were in Chicago, Dave's friends were going to be showing up, and they were going to be holding. When we went to Florida, Dave's friends were going to be there, and they were going to be holding. I mean, wherever we went, Dave had friends.
Uh-huh.
And but I'm diverted by that. What I mean is, he was a great guy to sit down, have a cigar. As a matter of fact, when Mick Fleetwood called me to join Fleetwood Mac, he goes, "Oh, you're gonna love it. We're all sober, and you know it's just gonna be great." And I go to the first rehearsal, and Dave's rolling a joint that's like the size of a baseball bat.
Yeah, child's arm.
And I'm thinking, this is a little different version of sobriety than the one I'm used to, but whatever, you know. And Dave goes, "Yeah, I really don't smoke pot." He's rolling, looking at me. And I go, "Well, anybody that rolls that good of a fatty, you should be smoking that shit, Dave." Oh, he goes, "Oh, I am gonna, but I don't really do it very often."
But you know, back then the pot wasn't as devastating as this stuff now.
Mick may have told him I was sober, so maybe he was trying to, like, you know, make sure that he didn't freak me out with all that, which fortunately in my life and attitude, I can be around it. It's not a temptation. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't bother me if somebody else is doing it. It's not, I'm not tempted by it. So, and I feel very blessed to have that reality in my life. I mean, I'm sitting 8 feet from I bought this antique piece of furniture 30 years ago, and it's full of booze. I don't even know what's in there. It's mostly, I think, from my mother-in-law and my ex-father-in-law. Anyway, I can be around it, but Dave's a real raconteur. Like, we both love cigars. At one point, somebody was making a Dave Mason blend. Dave was always doing these little side deals. Wine, Dave Mason cigars, Dave Mason guitars. He always had a side hustle going. And it's just because Dave was this outgoing personality. When he met the right people, he was so himself and so comfortable. And he just wound up having all these affiliations with people. He was just that kind of guy. I know I've seen a ton of stuff online since he passed away. And all these people that I never have met, and I worked with Dave very closely for a few years, but I know how Dave was. He just made friends wherever he went. He was like the Pied Piper. And when we were working together and playing together, he was dating Lee Taylor Young, who's a great actress.
I remember that name. Yeah.
Yeah, she was on Paid in Place. She was in the movie Soylent Green, and she's just the coolest chick I've ever been around. Just one of the greats. So Dave was this wonderful, outgoing guy who made friends wherever he went. And he shared and all of that. Like, he always made sure everybody was introduced properly. That's something that doesn't happen a lot in rock bands. People don't have it's like they lose etiquette. Like, they're always in a crowd where there's adulation for them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the balance of etiquette and protocol kind of goes out the window. But Dave was always very, very much concerned that everybody knew each other and that they had been properly introduced, and that, oh, this is my friend Steve, you should know this about him. He was always just that way. And
What a beautiful man, man. That's just really
yeah,
beautiful.
this is an awesome guy. So, and his music was, the thing about him musically was that I was always impressed by. Every night, he was there 100%. He was never, never phoning it in. He was always in touch with the music and the song and the story he was telling. It was never faked. Now, with that being said, there were times where Dave was notorious for not showing up.
Well, he didn't
And I
phone it
wonder
in.
why that could be.
He didn't phone it in, but he just didn't come sometimes.
Yeah, if he wasn't going to be there 100%, he wasn't there at all. So you got to respect that. You know what I mean?
Put that in the win call. So what happened?
One night,
where was he?
he was busy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
He had made friends with somebody new. But one night, Capaldi was so pissed off, and he goes, fuck him, we don't need him to perform. Thoma, you and I are going to go out there, and we're just going to wing it. So
oh boy.
it's me and Jim, and he's just calling tunes, and I'm, I have a pretty big catalog in my head. So we did about 20 minutes of totally impromptu, completely spontaneous, and then we did the middle section of the set, which was the acoustic part. The songs, Jim sang 2 or 3 of those songs. We did those songs, and finally, fucking Dave shows up. And guess what happened when he walked out on stage? Standing ovation.
Oh boy.
He didn't even
It was
play.
almost like it was planned.
He just walked out on stage and everybody went apeshit. Because and I forgot to mention, we started like an hour late. The show was supposed to be like a 9:00 show.
So they thought you
local band.
You were
That was the
opening up.
act.
They looked at it like you were opening up for him.
Exactly. So anyway, Dave was full of irony and dichotomies. But like I said, the reason that I dug playing with him so much is because he was just committed every night to it. He was committed to it, and because of that, everybody else was committed, especially that little 4-piece band, which sounded like gangbusters. And what's great about a 4-piece band is you can really play with real dynamics, and it's noticeable. And there's an old joke in the music business. Hey, can you guys play with more dynamics? And the guitar player always says, I'm playing as loud as I can. So, which is not the point. But anyway, that was a very dynamic little orchestra that we had, the 4 of us.
Cool.
And Dave was the leader of that. He was not, like Glenn Frey was a great band leader, and he was very specific in his directions to the band. I don't think Dave ever gave me a direction or gave me a different idea of what to play or what I should think about. He just gave everybody autonomy. And I think, and Glenn and I and Dave, I think we're on the same page. It's like, what's most important in a band is how it is cast. There may be a guy that's a better bass player, but he's not a better bass player for this band.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of subtleties in that. And part of it is a lot of musicians who have mastery of their instrument, let's say, but they don't understand punctuation and accents and
phrasing or whatever like that.
Yeah, and phrasing is not a natural thing for some people. I play with a drummer who's my lifelong best friend, but it's taken him 40 years to understand what a musical phrase is. Now that he gets it, it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Anyway, that was like the difference between Glenn. Glenn was very specific about what he wanted. He wasn't afraid to tell you, and he was very pinpoint on it. Dave never did that, at least not with me. And I don't remember him ever giving Jim any direction or giving Alex any direction. We just knew what to do. And it was because Dave's thing was so solid and obvious. He made it very obvious. And we also understood that what you don't play is sometimes even more important than what you do play.
Right.
So Dave
exactly
was a master at that. He was a true artist in that way. Even though we played pretty much the same set every night there was spontaneity going on. And every night we were excited to play it. I never called my wife from a room and said, "Oh, I'm tired of playing these songs." I was tired of being on the road away from my life here in Los Angeles. I grew tired of that. And I also, I wanted to make new music too. And when you're in a band that's on the road, especially a band that was successful in the 70s and or 80s or even the 90s, most radio isn't going to play your new stuff. There's only a very limited number of artists that are going to play their new stuff. And it's a very weird to be in that genre, which takes me to another story that I want to tell about Dave. So Dave, Fleetwood Mac breaks up because the version that we had put together for that couple of years was working steadily, but Warner Brothers was very concerned about Fleetwood Mac's future, and they still owed them an album. So they came to Mick and basically said, if you don't get Lindsey and Stevie back in the band, we're not going to pay you to do this last album that you owe us. And that was the last thing that Mick needed, because Mick was rebuilding his fortune. So that was like the end of that lineup. And then Dave, I went on the road with Dave. And along the way, my old friend Charlie Springer pops up in my life. And Charlie and I have a lot of mutual friends, and we never knew each other through Warner Brothers, because I think I worked with one artist that wound up on a Warner Brothers subsidiary, which was, you guys remember an artist named Julie Brown? She had a hit called "The Homecoming Queen Has a Gun."
I remember Julie Brown. I do.
So Julie Brown it was a big video hit, one of the
one of the early MTV.
Yeah. So I produced, that was the first record I produced.
You produced that?
Yeah.
Pretty damn good.
Playing piano, I'm playing keyboards on it.
Well done.
Thank you. So anyway, so I didn't have any dealings directly with Warner Brothers, but he and I met, we just kind of hit it off, and he had left Warner Brothers along with some other guys to start a new label. And that label was called Sovereign Artists. And Sovereign Artists was an LA-based independent record label. And it was started by a guy named Tommy Thunderberg. And Tommy was an amazing singer, a studio singer here in LA, a rock singer. Like he did all the backgrounds on Twisted Sister. He had that kind of voice.
Sure.
Several guys that Charlie knew they'd all done business together in their various positions. They started this label. And the reason they started it is because bands like Dave Mason, bands like Heart, these bands couldn't get a record deal because the radio stations that were playing those bands, this is before satellite radio took a hold, and streaming. The stations that were playing classic rock weren't going to play Heart's new record. They weren't going to play Dave Mason's new record. Their playlist would not allow that. Their station program directors wouldn't allow it. So they just want to hear the hits. The people on the radio want to hear the hits. So Sovereign Artists decided to try this concept of signing the artists that were no longer had a record deal or were no longer getting airplay, and they felt like they were going to be able to get their stuff heard by an appreciative audience. So what came about was, in my conversations with Charlie, he's like, "Hey man, haven't you been working with Dave Mason?" And I go, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm writing songs with him. We're just trying to put some kind of a deal together. And he's got some interest, so I've been going to his place. The time he was living down in Newport Beach, I'd go down to Newport, camp out for 2 or 3 days, and write songs. And he had a studio set up at his house, and we'd do demos. And same thing happened up in Ojai a couple times when he moved up there. I go, we don't really have an album put together yet, but Dave's got a bunch of tunes, and I've been writing with him. And he goes, I know that you have a lot of experience doing different stuff. He goes, would you consider managing Dave? I'm like, well, why would you ask me if I want to manage Dave? And he goes, well, I think we'd like to sign Dave. And, we have this new label we're starting. We just signed Don Grusin, who is a jazz guy and who does also a lot of scoring. And we just signed Heart. I'm like, oh, cool. So he goes, my idea is to put Dave and Hart on the road together with new albums out. And he goes, we got a money guy. The guy that's backing this up has made a ton of money in the .com boom, and evidently he helped a lot of people pull out of the market when the .com bust happened in 2000. And those people are forever grateful, and they're spending a lot of money with him, reevaluating their portfolios and reinvesting. And this guy's got an unlimited, investor group that wants to be in the music business, because the music business is kind of sexy. I go, sounds good. Sounds like actually a really good plan. These little independent labels were carving out niches, like None Such Records, and one of the labels that signed Alison Krauss, it was just a little independent label, made her like a major star. So there was room now for these little companies.
Sub Pop was one of them out there.
Right, Sub Pop, yeah, exactly. There were some metal labels that were squeaking out bands and making them happen, and then, of course, after a couple albums, the majors are signing all these guys.
Yeah.
So they had I thought they had a really good business model, and I really dug it. And he goes, so why don't you talk to Dave, and we should put a deal together. So I talked to Dave, and I go, this is kind of a ass backwards way, but these friends of mine are starting this new label. They just signed Don Grusin. They already finished his album, and they did a live album release party at the Mayfair Theater in Santa Monica, which was a very cool venue. A lot of press. As far as the jazz album goes, he got a lot of press. He had a hit jazz album.
That's a tough.
And I said they just signed Heart.
That in itself is a pretty big achievement. Hit jazz album. I mean, that's
right. So they wanted to have this very diverse label, kind of like A&M Records when they first started out. They wanted diverse artists, So anyway, I go, they just signed Heart. That's a done deal, and they're asking me if I'd be interested in managing you, because you haven't had a manager for a very long time. I know you've been kind of trying to manage yourself, and you've done a great job, but I want you to be able to focus on what you do and not have to worry about what I can be doing. So I've always wanted to be a producer manager, and this is a great opportunity for me, and I think it's a great opportunity for you. And what do you think? He goes, I like that idea. Let me think about it. So he thinks about it. A couple of days later, he calls me, goes, I like this. Let's go with this.
So you did it.
Through a circuitous path here, I wound up having an opportunity to put Dave, not only going to have him on the road with Heart, but when that tour is over with, I got it set up for him to go on tour and open for Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, that's big.
The Dave and Dave tour, which would expose him to a whole new generation of people that are going to go, oh, I know that song, right? And then whatever new stuff we were going to write. So this was like my launch for me. It was my launch pad out of being the hired gun and doing what I'd always wanted to do, which was produce and manage artists. So we put it together. We put a deal together with Sovereign Artists. They present a deal to Dave. It's a freaking solid deal. If the record doesn't sell something like 50,000 units, meaning if they don't do their job, the label,
right,
he owns the master.
Okay.
And can do with it what he wants. I mean, this is kind of unheard of back then.
Sure.
Right? And Dave's like, I like this deal. The royalty structure was higher than any deal he'd ever been offered. and it was an incredibly fair deal. And if the record sells, they make money. Dave makes money. It's a beautiful thing. And they had options, all standard stuff, standard escalation clauses, very fair. And somewhere in the midst of that, Dave reaches out, or somebody from Clive Davis's new label reaches out to Dave and dangles that carrot.
Oh boy.
Now, the timing of this, it's always about timing. This is in like maybe September of 2002 or 2003, something like that. What's happening is I should look it up so I have an accurate date, but Traffic was nominated to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they wind up, it's confirmed they're going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that event, like let's say it's in April, where they actually have the event where they honor the new inductees in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we've got about 4 to 5 months of run-up to that event, which is not a lot of time. We got to finish his album. We got to start press and publicity, because any print stuff you do, you got to do like at least 60 days in advance, usually 90 days in advance. And we want all this stuff to hit in March and April and May, right? So it's like, we got to make this deal. We got to get this record done. You're not going to have a bunch of opportunities to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and be on that television show, which is going to get aired all over the planet. Let's time all of this together. And what ruined the deal from my perspective was Dave was intoxicated by the possibility of Clive Davis signing him.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And
I know that feeling. I came very close to that a couple of times.
right, so prior to that, this whole excursion with Sovereign Artists, when Fleetwood Mac, that I call it Fleetwood Light, when Fleetwood Light broke up, I had become buddy with Carl Stubner, who was Mick's, Fleetwood's personal manager. And he said, you and I should manage Dave Mason together. And he goes, I got all the connections. You can be the nuts and bolts day-to-day guy, but I'll make all the connections. And I think we can really make something happen for Dave. So we make an agreement that we're going to co-manage Dave, which Dave liked the idea of. He didn't love Carl, but he loved me. So he agreed to that arrangement, and Carl got on the phone, and every day Carl would call me and go, yeah, I just talked to Larry Vallon, the guy that runs the amphitheater, because I called him to see about getting on some shows at the Universal Amphitheater as an opening act. There's a whole lot of bands that Dave would be compatible with. And Larry, who's the nicest guy on the planet, just a wonderful guy, incredible concert promoter, and just an awesome, soulful guy. He's like, I'd love to be involved with Dave. I love Dave. I'm a big fan of Dave's, but Dave kind of screwed us up. He didn't show up for some shows here, and he's so charming. A few years later, Dave was back on the bill, and he didn't show up again.
Oh boy!
So this was something we heard again and again. Carl and I, everybody we went to. Oh, I'm a big Dave. What do you think of Dave Mason? Oh, I'm a huge Dave Mason fan.
But,
and then we'd hear the but. Now here's the kicker. Chris Wood, who was in the band, said, Dave Mason fucked me over 100 times, but I'm still madly in love with him. I'll never not be in love with Dave Mason. Which kind of tells the whole friggin' story.
Yeah, so as we get, because we've reached an hour here, so we want to get this in. I want to just kind of wind it up with talking about the man that just passed away. Really, he just left this planet. So how's his family? How was his human life? Did he have a wife, kids? What was the deal with David?
Yes, he had a wife the last several years. They lived together. They were very happy. He loved his wife, and he had to stop touring last year. He had some medical issues pop up, and finally the doctor said, look, you can't go on the road anymore. You're just taking a chance here. You've had an amazing run. You're gonna have to say goodbye to touring, which he did, and it broke his heart, broke his fans' heart.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And here's the thing, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys yet, but I had a birthday back in March, and sometime in February, early February, my daughter said, we want to throw a birthday party for you, but we don't want to make it a surprise because this is a big birthday. And we want to make sure that we get to invite all the people that you really care about. So will you please put a guest list together? And why don't you, and we'd think it'd be great if you put a band together and played at the party, because that's like that's your happy place, making music. So we wound up, a friend of mine offered his house. He's got a big piece of property over an acre, and it's a beautiful home. And he had just totally remodeled his backyard. He built a guest house. He built a pool, a big deck, a jacuzzi, an outdoor kitchen, this fabulous place to have, entertain guests. So we had this party there, and I put a 10-piece band together for it. And I got Becca Bramlett. I flew her out for the party because she's been tight with us, and she loves my wife and loves my daughters. And, she's like Aunt Becca.
Steve, I have FOMO about that party, because
I know.
I wanted to go there.
You were on the list.
I was so sad about that.
Anyway, so Becca was here. Becca stayed with us here at the house when she came into town for this party. And so we picked up the phone on speakerphone, called Diamond Dave Mason.
Oh, boy.
And of course, it went to voicemail after about 4 rings. And I go, this fucker's not going to call us back, I bet. So Becca goes, Dave, it's Tome, and it's Beck and Tome. And he used to call me the Tome Meister. And she goes, it's Beck and Tome Meister, and we're having a party on Saturday, and we want you to come. Call us back, fucker.
I hope he did.
He never called us back, and then he died a month later.
Oh, well,
we were so bummed because Dave would have been that would have been like icing on the cake. It was awesome having Becca here because she's such an amazing.
Oh my God! Well, this is
that's what we left with Dave. Hey, fucker.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this is the sad ending, but a wonderful stories of Dave Mason, though. I tell you, wow. I'm so, and your life too is woven in there. I got to see that picture of you and Andy Gibb. I've never seen that picture of you and that boy. And now I know the real Steve now. I know. What a wonderful story. What a bunch of Dave Mason, wherever, you somewhere. We don't know where we all go after this mortal experience, but wherever you are, Dave, Steve, the Tome Meister sends you his love, right?
Yeah.
Steve? And we do too, Dave.
But of all the artists I've ever played with, Dave is the one guy that I miss playing with the most.
Wow. Now that's an amazing tribute right there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us with this amazing story about Dave Mason, which we're going to air as soon as possible because we want to get it out there while his memory is still hanging in the air, and we can make a tribute that his family would like. And I love you, Steve, very much. You know that. And thank you, Vernon, so much, too. I'm glad we got your sound working.
in honor of another professional musician who would have laughed at me for this.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on Out of the Blue. And I love you guys. See you soon. Out of the Blue, the podcast, hosted by me, Vernon West, co-hosted by Vernon West III, edited by Joe Gallo, music and logo by Vernon West III. Have an Out of the Blue story of your own you'd like to share? Reach us at info@outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. Subscribe to Out of the Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website, outoftheblue-thepodcast.org.